Welcome to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo, episode number 23. My name is Gabe Estel. I'm here with my co-hosts Dennis Levi Leach and Jonathan Getz. How's it going, guys?
Hola.
Excellent. Well, I just have to say we had a blast our last episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, go ahead and listen to it because it'll help inform this episode. But also, we just had a hoot. So the first round of our Guitar Madness bracket. So a lot of fun there, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, excellent. So tonight we're going to do rounds 2 and 3 of the Guitar Madness bracket. So rounds 2 and 3, which will take us to the final 4 guitarists, which we will give the champion in the next episode. So we've got a lot to cover tonight within the bracket itself. So I'm going to go ahead, Levi, Jonathan. I'm going to jump right in to the leadoff session, which we're going to keep brief and keep it to baseball. We're recording this on April Fool's Day, and spring training is about to wrap up, and we're about ready to. Everybody's excited because we're going to have some real baseball by the end of this week. So, that said, the teams are finalizing their rosters, and 2 of our teams, the Cubs and the White Sox, have sent down, each of them have sent down essentially their most high-profile prospect. 2 guys who have also, one in particular, Chris Bryant, have played exceptionally well this spring. So, Levi, Chris Bryant goes down to the Cubs, which some people kind of expected because of some contractual reasons.
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious it's a business and it's baseball, and that's sadly the business of baseball right now is that rule is in effect. And, that rule was agreed upon and bargained with the Players Association. They agreed to it, and now they're against it. And so, and what's sad is Scott Boras sometimes, I think...
Is Brian a Boras client?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, he is. Okay, I didn't know that.
I believe Rodon is too.
I know Rodon is. Yeah.
So Rodon, yeah.
That'll make the next contract fun.
And so he stuck his foot in his mouth. I think, you know what I mean, for the fact that if he says, if it's not about business and the money, what's it about? They say it's development, and the key is when we drafted him. The day after we drafted him, we offered him $6-point-something million, and he didn't agree to it. And Boras held him out for 2 months, so he missed a whole summer of development for money.
Yeah.
And then now this is the story.
Well, and you're lucky to have even gotten him then, because some of these players never sign and just go back into the draft.
Yeah.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? So in that instance, it was great to be about the money when you're Scott Boras.
Yeah. Scott Boras is not exactly a guy that isn't going to talk out of 2 sides of his mouth any chance he can get.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'll give the guy this. He's good at what he does. I don't like him, but he's good
he's
at
the
what
best
he does.
at what he does.
Did he deserve? Did Bryant deserve to be up? Yes. Is it the track record, though, of Theo Epstein? No. You know what I mean? Theo Epstein, they were saying the only player he's ever made a rookie who made his opening day major league first appearance was Daisuke Matsuzaka. Yeah. He's the only one who's ever done that, and
he was kind of a different rookie.
He was a veteran rookie.
He had all those years in Japan. He was already like 25 or something.
Every other rookie that Epstein has developed has never made his first major league appearance on opening day.
Theo's like, hey, how are we supposed to win back-to-back World Series if I don't send him down now so that we can win 2 in a row 4 years from now?
You'll have him here in about 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah. And the Cubs played great today without him.
Who needs him? Trade him.
No, but I'm saying we'll be fine for 3 weeks, people.
Trade Bryant, dude. Just do it.
I think we got
Bryant for A-Rod. Do it.
They were going to give us the whole Minnesota Twins team, I think.
Right. And then Carlos Rodon. I was thinking earlier this week, I thought that maybe they were going to start him in the bullpen. We've had some bullpen uncertainty which David Robertson's forearm has got me kind of nervous. Yeah. And then we've got another guy named, probably not going to mean much to non-White Sox fans, but a guy named Jake Petrichka, he's decent. He's having forearm problems as well. So we got a couple like sort of question marks in the bullpen now. So I was thinking that they were going to, start Rodon in the bullpen. This is what they did with Sale's rookie year, knowing he was going to be a starter, but just to make his appearance. Yeah. Right. But Rodon's going to be starting in the minors.
I was totally surprised.
Yeah. I was more surprised than Brian. Brian, I expected it because of the contractual things. But yeah, Rodon, it caught me by surprise as well when I heard it. So he'll come up this year.
We'll see them both this year.
Yeah. So anyway, in the meantime, maybe Kyle Drabek will become something in Chicago.
Right.
So anyway. All right. So you know what? That's the leadoff session for tonight, folks. We're going to dive right into this tournament now. And we've got the second round. We have some great guitarists facing off tonight.
I'm going to share my bracket, so
okay.
I'm going to disappear, but you'll still hear me.
All right then.
For those playing at home.
Yes. So yeah, if you haven't had a chance, folks, to fill out a bracket yet, go ahead and do so. We've got our first round already done, but we'd love to see your picks as well. See who you would have going far. So we populated this whole thing with really great guitarists, and next year we'll do all different guitarists as well. I think we could probably fill out about a half a dozen of these.
Yep.
All right. So we've got our second round matchups, folks. We've got the first matchup. We've got Nels Cline of Wilco, also played with Mike Watt, versus David Gilmour of Pink Floyd. So two great guitarists here, from two great bands. Levi, start us off, man.
You guys know me. I'm classic rock, man. I had to go Dave Gilmour on this one. There was no hesitation.
Right.
But that's me. I like Wilco. Although I've said it before, I think in other broadcasts, I was always more of a Uncle Tupelo Sunvolt guy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never totally onto the Wilco bug.
Nothing wrong with that.
I totally guitarist first guitarist. I had to go Gilmour.
Sure.
Yeah. I went back and forth on this as well, and at the same time, I really pushed for Nels to get into this bracket.
Yeah, right.
And I think because I knew he could do well, he could go far. And thinking real hard on this, the guitar work that Nels has done and the song structures he provides, and this, I really don't mean this to belittle Gilmour at all, because Gilmour is one of the all-timers. I'm going to take Nels in the upset, and I say upset because Nels would probably say that David Gilmour should win.
Right.
But I got to take Nels. I just keep thinking back to him, to seeing him play with Mike Watt and just stealing the stage up there, which is hard to do when you're on the same stage as Mike Watt, one of the most enigmatic bass players of the last 30 years. So yeah, I'm going Nels.
And also, him and Tweedy have made a really good tandem, I think, too. I mean, he gets most of his attention for a songwriter, but Tweedy can tear up the guitar.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. I like when he goes electric, definitely.
Yeah. So Gabe, deciding vote.
I know. I'm going to go with David Gilmour. I have to. And I like Nels Cline a lot. Particularly what he's done on the last two Wilco records. So, but I got to go Gilmour. I think he's such a fluid player. He's played on some of my favorite albums of all time. I think he still, even for his age, sounds great.
Yeah.
Vocally, and his playing is still, he's still really, really good.
He does have that on Nels.
He's one of
Nels
the guys on
vocals.
my bucket list for sure. I want to see.
Yeah, I need
Gilmour.
to see him as well. But anyway, Gilmour for me. Gilmour advances. All right. Next matchup, guys. We've got Brian May of Queen versus Peter Frampton of Peter Frampton and Humble Pie.
Camel
as well. So Jonathan, why don't you start us off for this one, man? Brian May versus Peter Frampton.
I'm going Brian May.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I've never been able to totally drink the Peter Frampton sauce. So yeah, I just gotta go May. The diversity is there. The guitar tones are there. That's not to say Frampton hasn't done similar things, but it's May.
Yeah. You know, is it just me, guys, or is Brian May's status just overall just kind of creeping up among the three of us lately? You know, it's I feel really good about Brian May. I'm going to take him too, which I liked Frampton in the first round, but I think, like Jonathan mentioned, Brian May kind of challenged himself maybe a little bit more. I mean, just from just all the really different things that Queen did, and even if you don't like, there's some Queen songs I like more than others. I like his playing on every one of their songs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even if I don't like the song itself, I think he's always a shining point in each of their tunes. So Brian May for me. Levi?
Well, my vote does not matter.
Okay.
I bounce back and forth, but to me, these guys are.
God, you're really struggling with this.
Obviously, they're not similar. They're not similar, but to me, they are. They're like classic rock, like bastions. You know what I mean? You could take either one on any given day at their best. You know what I'm saying? And
you know, like you look at the late '70s, both of them were on fire. I mean,
so when I rolled the dice in my head, it landed on Frampton at the end. So I wrote Frampton. But the thing I think, and I agree, the depth of May's work is, I think, better. I think if Frampton would have ended his career maybe with Frampton Comes Alive, like there could have been, like, you know, if
Frampton died in a plane crash after Frampton Comes Alive,
if there was no Sergeant Pepper's movie, Frampton would be a god among them.
He would be.
Yeah.
He would be.
That when I saw him play with the Crows a couple of years ago, though, that was pretty righteous, and it really caught me.
At the Ryman, right?
It
was at the Ryman. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
and
that was
the story of how
he got pretty jazzed.
Sorry to step on you, man. The story of how he got his guitar back is on YouTube.
That is
and
good.
It's legendary and it's great, and everybody should watch it.
Yeah, I'll post the link to it.
His legendary Black Beauty 3-pickup Les Paul was taken in a crazy incident on a landing strip in a plane crash or something, and he didn't see it for decades.
Yeah. I'm going to post a link to that on the rockchew.com episode page for this.
So
All
May
next matchup: Noel Gallagher versus Jerry Garcia. Okay, so you know, two guys that you think about Noel. Noel's been in the game a long time. You know, I mean, not obviously Jerry Garcia long, but
he's not too far from
not
it.
Too
at this
far.
point.
Yeah, probably. Actually, probably. I mean, first Oasis record came out in like 93, 94,
94. Yeah. So he's been doing it 20 years. Jerry did it from 65 or what?
60, to 95. 60, he did for 30 years. So closer
he's
than I thought.
There.
Yeah. I got to go with Jerry. I mean, Noel got in the first. I was advocating for him strongly in the first round. I like his tone. I think there's more of a Neil Young influence there than people give him credit for. But I have to go with Jerry. I mean, as the live repertoire as well. So yeah, he was playing different songs every night. You know, I mean, Oasis. As much as Oasis is good live, they don't really change their set list. You know, so yeah.
Jonathan,
I'm supposed to drink. I had to change the set list.
Yeah.
Reference. Sorry. Levi, you want me to go?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's your vote?
I'm going Jerry on this as well. I think the body of work and the influence, and just to kind of piss off a Gallagher is always fun.
He'd probably have a good retort.
He would, and I would laugh.
Yeah, he's funny. He's very quotable.
We just pissed off an Oasis listener, just so everybody knows.
Right.
No.
I think we've got a sweep here.
It is, yeah. I had to go Jerry Garcia, although I really do. That What's the Story Morning Glory record like is a total time capsule of a certain time.
Absolutely.
And I can associate memories to a lot of those songs in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I have that feeling with like hundreds of Grateful Dead songs.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
This one was I knew how this one was going to end.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Noel was outmatched here.
Yeah. Captain Trips wins.
All right, Richie Blackmore. This is an interesting matchup. Richie Blackmore versus Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes. Richie Blackmore of Deep Purple and Rainbow, and I guess he does play that weird like medieval music with his wife now, the Blackmore's Night.
Yes.
So anyway, Jonathan, what about you? You go first.
I brushed up on some Blackmore this past week on RDO, and rocked some Deep Purple and
Child in Time.
No, shit. I forget.
I like the Coverdale records. I like those two a lot. I like them better actually than the Ian Gillan stuff.
I like all of it. Yeah.
Actually, it was some live stuff with Coverdale that I was listening to, and so one 12-minute trip after another.
Oh yeah,
they were awesome.
Yeah, Space Trek.
Yeah. So because I wanted Richie to inch up on Rich, and
it's a close game. This is a close score.
And you talk about diversity; these two guys are pretty dissimilar, and but Rich's overall work. Some of this may be due to my ignorance of Richie Blackmore, but I know what Rich can do, both rhythm and solo, and how integral he is to a band, and so I got to go Rich Robinson.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me. I went back and forth on this one. I had one guy, and then I scratched him out and wrote another guy, and then I scratched that out and wrote the first guy again. And
it gets harder in the second round, man.
My gut went with Rich. I'm a Black Crowes fan through and through.
Sure.
Although I love Deep Purple, I have behind me probably at least 6 Deep Purple records, and I was gonna say or a minute ago, I love all the incarnations of the band. I think they were a great band, just overall.
Yeah, they don't get their due as much as they should. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were huge at the time.
At the time, they're not one of those bands that a lot of people look back on like Zeppelin or Floyd.
Sure, they don't like that. But as far as influence go, they're almost just as important as those bands, those godlike bands.
Oh, heavy metal, like Richie Blackmore was like.
His fingers are responsible for some of it.
For a lot of
Yeah. Anyway, I got to go with Rich as well. It's a little bit of a sentimental choice, I suppose, but I think Blackmore's, even though he's still playing and he's had a long career, I mean, most of his best work is concentrated in a relatively short amount of time, I think. Basically 1 decade. So, I go with Rich. I think he's really versatile. His tunings are great. And Rich is criminally underrated. I mean, I'm biased, but I'm saying it from my favorite. He's in my favorite band, but he's really underrated. So Rich advances. Nice.
Oh boy, right. Sneak peek at that next round.
Yeah. What's that?
Sneak peek at that next round.
Wow. Jerry versus Rich.
Anyway. God,
we'll be back.
Thinking of that. We've got John Frusciante of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and as well as a body of solo work, versus King Crimson's own Robert Fripp. Great progressive psychedelic guitarist. Jonathan, I'm curious to see how you answer this.
I bet you are. Yeah. I got to go Fripp from the body of work and the diversity. I'm going Fripp.
Yeah, this one was one of those ones where the guys, are worlds apart in their styles and stuff. And
I'd love to see them play together.
I really, that would be insane. Yeah. It would be like LSD and heroin smashed together. And so, I have a lot of memories to Red Hot Chili Peppers songs, so I went with my gut. I went for Frusciante.
All right, we've got a split so far. This is going to surprise some people, maybe surprise me when I came to the conclusion. I'm going to go for Frusciante as well. Even though I'm not a huge Chili Peppers fan, I think his work really stands out on otherwise kind of mediocre albums. Whereas with Fripp,
Fripp was
you can't argue that he played on great work, but I don't know. King Crimson has kind of like, if you followed King Crimson over the last probably 20, 25 years, it's been like him and just basically like all these different rotating people.
He is King Crimson.
Right. I don't know. They're guys that like sort of stand out in necessarily bands that I don't listen to that regularly. I mean, aside from some of the really old King Crimson. So yeah, I go with Frusciante.
Where I think you miss Frusciante is the albums he's not on.
Exactly.
That's when you start to appreciate John Frusciante.
Yeah. It would, if he were to come out on some of those early records too. Whew. Anyway, or the popular records from the early '90s. Anyway, all right. So Frusciante advances. Mark Knopfler versus Stephen Stills, two veterans here. I'll go first with this one. You know, I took Knopfler mainly for some of the same reasons that I took Frusciante. I think Knopfler has, while I like just about all of Dire Straits' work, I think they kind of have some lackluster songs, some songs that are kind of snoozy. But I think they've made albums that might be average, but his playing was never average to me. And his new record that came out just a week or two ago is pretty solid as well. I like it so far from what I've heard. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Knopfler. Stephen Stills, important vocalist, and I recognize his place. I just don't know if he's always been that important to me. So yeah, Knopfler for me.
Okay.
Levi, you can go.
This I really appreciate Stephen Stills. I like Buffalo Springfield a lot. I like Crosby, Stills and Nash. His first solo record's got some great songs on it.
Yeah, the football. He was always wearing the football
jersey. Yeah. Hendrix, I think like Hendrix is on that album. He does a solo on a song. And so I appreciate Stephen Stills, but I appreciate Mark Knopfler more, and I went with Mark Knopfler. And I think part of it is just I just think he's one of the tastiest guitar lick type players ever.
That's a good way to describe it.
I listen to Skate Away all the time just to hear his like chicken picking style, because he's just a great guitarist. If you're into technical type of guitar playing, and he makes it sound effortless, which is frustrating if you are a guitar player.
He's playing the Chicago Theater here in September or October, and I really want to go. So we'll see. All right, Jonathan.
Well, Stephen Stills holds a soft place in my heart because I happened to catch him at the Fillmore West in San Francisco, 10, 15 years ago, and that was a unique experience. I just happened to be in town while he was playing, so I had to go. And he did his thing, not obviously to the level that he was able to do in the late '60s and '70s. And his songwriting is pretty spot on when it comes to the most important songwriting of that time. But Knopfler's tones, even though Knopfler can be considered a bit of your dad's guitarist, I'm always amazed at Knopfler and his consistency. And that's not to say he doesn't take chances, but he's always consistent in his execution.
Absolutely.
So going Knopfler, clean sweep.
Yeah, I will say, if this was maybe the best songwriter bracket, I would have gone with Stephen Stills.
Yeah.
Because I think Gabe said, I think Dire Straits kind of suffered some of the early '80s musicisms. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think the synthesizers and all that
touches on the music.
It would have been interesting to see their records if they had been produced maybe 10 years before that or 10 years after that.
And I am never a most popular song kind of guy when it comes to artists.
Yeah.
but I will never not turn off Sultans of Swing on FM radio.
Oh yeah, I
It's
love
an
that
amazing
song.
tune.
Oh yeah, Money
Yeah,
for Nothing.
his playing
I still
on that
listen to it.
is just crazy.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
And his influence on guys like Big Head Todd is pretty obvious and
Right.
for the best.
Yeah.
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 All right, so Knopfler, it's a sweep.
Yep.
Alan Collins of Leonard Skinnerd, and Tommy Bolin, who, well, his solo albums are his best stuff, but he also briefly played in Deep Purple, played in the James Gang with a couple records as well.
Yeah.
So
The Gunslinger.
so yeah,
hired
he was known for twice there, kind of replacing more famous guitarists.
Yep.
But yeah, so two guys that left this world too early as well, certainly. But anyway, I go with Bolin. I mean, here's a guy who, you know, he could have played with Bowie or he could have played with Skinnerd. I mean, Collins probably could have just played with Skinnerd. So I go with Bolin just because of his versatility and really how much I've fallen in love with his couple solo records. So Tommy for me.
Yep, and I'm gonna say Bolin too. He was so integral to the sound of whatever band he was in.
Yeah.
Bolin.
Two guys with really
sweep.
good stage
Yeah.
presence here too, both of them in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Clean
Yeah.
sweep there, guys. I went with Bolin as well. I just think the level of talent is just a little higher with
Yeah.
Bolin.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get to, with Collins. He after the crash, he was around for a while, but he got a car accident then.
Oh yeah,
So he never got to
Yeah.
really share his
the,
gifts.
the
again.
Rosington Collins band. That first record jams. I
That
still
first
listen
record's
to
not
it.
bad. No, it's
Yeah,
not. It's
yeah.
it's well,
Don't
it's not even more than
misunderstand
better,
me.
not
It's
bad.
a
It's
great-
good.
Yeah, it's a great song.
All
Yeah.
right, so Bolin, another sweep. All right. Okay, next up, we've got Mick Taylor and Mike Campbell. Now, I want to note something here, folks. Jonathan, I believe, selected The Edge over Mick Taylor in the first
I'll
round.
never live it down, I'm sure.
So,
People won't
so
stop the hate mail.
all of his decisions, just
Tainted.
approach them with skepticism, friends.
You know I'm taking
All
the edge
right.
in this round, right?
What's that?
I'm taking the edge in this
You're
round out of protest.
All right, so who is your choice here then, since you didn't select Mick Taylor?
Look, I respect Mick Taylor, undoubtedly.
As you should.
Yes, and I don't mean to vote against him twice, but I'm going with Mike Campbell. Mike Campbell's body of work is Mike Campbell's songwriting body of work is amongst the best in the history of rock and roll. The history of rock and roll, and his solos are subtle and yet at the same time just straight up rock.
Mm-hmm.
And his footprint will never leave the history of rock and roll. Mike Campbell.
All right.
Gabe, what is
Well
your
put.
vote?
I agree with everything Jonathan just said, but I have to look at somebody who played on like 3 of the greatest consecutive records ever. I think probably the 3 greatest records like in a row from a band. Taylor did that. With Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, and then Exile. There's no 3 better albums in a row. And he was a part of it. I like to think of him as, comparing 2 of my favorite bands here, I like to think of him as the Mark Ford that the Stones had for a few years. Also, he came into the band when I think he was like 19.
Yeah,
You're 19 years old. You joined the biggest band.
He's a fucking phenomenon.
I
Excuse
mean,
my
yeah.
language, but
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
He's
really
the reason that band kept going, because they
Yeah.
kind of were at a point where Brian Jones had died, and it was like, you know what I mean? This band's either going to tank or they're going to make it, and he helped them.
I thought he played so well with Keith too. So yeah, I go Taylor here.
This
Levi.
this was a tough one, man. I rolled, tossed and turned all night. Um, I love Mick Taylor, and I love the Rolling Stones, and I think
Uh-huh.
Mick Taylor is on my favorite Rolling Stones records. That being said, there's no Tom Petty in the Heartbreakers without Mike Campbell, and there was a Rolling Stones before and after Mick Taylor.
All right. Well played. Okay.
And
Well
so
put.
Mike Campbell has got my vote. Tough one. It was a tough one.
All right. God.
Campbell Bolin next
I need
round.
another drink after that one. All right.
There you have it.
Taking a button down here. Jeez. All right.
Oh, but we won't venture far from the Stones discussion.
Right. I was trying to set up a Stones matchup here as well. Jonathan, you go first. Actually, we've got Kurt Cobain versus Keith Richards. So, just legendary musicians here. One that died young, and one that probably everybody thought was going to die young.
The indestructible.
Yeah, old Keith, the old hole in the theory there. Anyway, Levi, start us off here, man.
I really appreciate everything Kurt Cobain did for music, but I had to go Keith Richards.
Yeah,
Had to. It's Keith.
yeah. Kurt, it's a brief era of contribution too.
Yeah. I mean, I still jam "Saint of Me." When was that song? Like that was like early 2000s Rolling Stones,
Right.
and I still think that's got a cool riff.
Like '97, it was on Bridges.
Yeah, and you know what I mean. So, yeah,
All right.
the scope of work is you got to go Richards.
Yeah. Jonathan.
Yeah, even though I was an early '90s music child, Kurt Cobain, a lot of Kurt Cobain guitar tones coming through my little Sony little ghetto blaster there. But you got to go Richards. It's just too obvious. This is a tough draw for Kurt Cobain because his influence will be will carry on with Richards' influence when it comes to guitar riffs, but it's Richards.
Yeah. All right, Keith. Next up, interesting matchup here. A veteran. Well, they're both veterans, but one much more so than the other. Alex Lifeson of Rush versus Jim James of My Morning Jacket. Jonathan, why don't you start with this one then?
I wanted Jim James to pull this out.
Right.
I did. I think he's one of the most important rock and roll guitar songwriters of the last 20 years. But Alex Lifeson it's like he's just indestructible in some ways, and
playing with two other guys that are indestructible as well.
Right, and his work is even felt in some of that early '90s music I was listening to. He guests on Mad Season, that Mad Season record, but Alex Lifeson's work with Rush is unparalleled. So Alex Lifeson.
I'll keep this brief. Alex Lifeson. I mean, Jim James, is great, and he's part of a really good guitar tandem. But I mean, just longevity or experience wins out here.
Yeah, clean sweep, guys. Obviously, I'm gonna go Alex Lifeson on this.
Right.
No disrespect to Jim James.
Well, yeah, I mean, how's he supposed to compete?
But I don't want to sound like a dick, but as soon as he writes a working man, call me.
Right. This is That was like a North Carolina versus Xavier or something. As a strong lower seed, but still just outmatched. Anyway, all right. So next up, interesting matchup here. Two very different guitarists. Vernon Reid of Living Colour versus Toy Caldwell of the Marshall Tucker Band. I'll start us off with this one. Vernon Reid's he's a maniac, and I mean that in the best possible way. But I don't know necessarily if the body of work is quite there. I mean, I know Toy Caldwell has left the world, but I still think he's a vastly underrated guitar player, and I think he's better integrated in a band sound.
Yeah.
Whereas Vernon Reed's just kind of this crazy solo guitarist. So I went with Toy Caldwell.
Yeah, I agree, because I think that Vernon Reed's guitar sound is a bit more about the production of the band.
Yeah.
While Toy, man, he just cuts straight through and fucking nails you right between the eyes.
Oh, yeah.
The chicken picking, you can't pass it up.
He's such a nasty picker, dude. I'm gonna listen to Marshall Tucker Band after we record this episode. That's all there is to
Yeah,
it.
clean sweep, man.
Yeah.
I love the Marshall Tucker Band, and as he said, that Gabe mentioned, he's an underrated guitar player. Period. They are an underrated band. Not enough people will give props to the Marshall Tucker Band, and they should.
They should be here. I'll say it. They should be like more well received or just more revered than Leonard Skinner, I think.
Yeah.
You went and said it. Boom.
I did. I don't know about more. I love both of them. All right.
I think they should be held in the
just
same
as
regard.
much. They should be held in the same regard. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
All right. Next up,
this next matchup might divide the
here.
audience.
Oh man,
We're about to lose half of our audience.
Randy Rhoads versus Jeff Beck. Man, this is the toughest matchup for me so far, guys.
I'll start
I gotta
this
be
one.
honest. Levi, go ahead.
I went Randy Rhoads, and part of that is just because, to me, you guys mentioned it a couple of guitarists ago. Jeff Beck to me was always your dad's guitarist instead of Mark Knopfler, I think we said before. And so I just never could get into Jeff Beck for some reason. And growing up, one of the first guitar licks I ever learned how to play was Crazy Train. And I think if you're into rock guitar, that's the case for a lot of kids. And I think it would have been amazing to see where Randy Rhoads would have gone if he hadn't have passed away so early. So I went Randy Rhoads.
All right.
Gabe?
Jonathan?
Yeah. You want me to go? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Curious. I don't know how much you feel about Randy Rhoads, or Jeff Beck. So yeah.
Jeff Beck's versatility is pretty amazing. Even on lately, he's covered lately. I think within the last 10 years, he even covers some Jeff Buckley songs, which is pretty phenomenal. I'm a big Jeff Buckley fan, and guitar tones out the wazoo, phenomenal. I've been on an Ozzy kick lately though, and the Randy Rhoads riffs and the tone, just again they cut straight through, and you can't deny them. I think the influence is greater on your layman's guitarist. Jeff Beck is more of a guitarist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly. I've got that in my notes, man. So I'll give it to you there.
Sorry.
I said the exact same thing.
I know that some of our listeners are like, "What's the point of doing this entire bracket when Jeff Beck is in it and Jeff Beck is supposed to win?" But sometimes it just comes down to the matchups and the vibe you're feeling. And right now I'm feeling the Rhoads vibe.
Beck at all. I like Jeff Beck, especially the Jeff Beck stuff with Rod Stewart.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just the amount of kids I think that Randy Rhoads influenced, and the way he resurrected Ozzy's career. A lot of people don't give him credit,
right?
But he literally kind of took Ozzy out of the gutter.
Yeah,
of being
Ozzy was
kicked
not
out.
doing well.
He was kicked out of Black Sabbath
when he left Sabbath. Yeah. Oh God, this one's tough. It's a sweep, man. I got to go with Rhoads as well.
Wow.
Talk about a guy that did such killer work in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, those two Ozzy records he plays on are fucking awesome. All right. So yeah, I gotta go with Randy as well. It was not easy. Hardest one for me. Like I said, we'll probably lose some listeners over this one. But yeah, Randy Rhoads, man.
All right, the last quadrant here.
Okay. We've got Neil Young.
Oh no, one before that.
Oh, do we? Oh, wait.
Jimmy Page and Eddie Van Halen.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry. God, I did not write that. Jesus. Yeah. Jimmy Page. Wow, this is huge. Jimmy Page versus Eddie Van Halen.
You're just gonna stumble over this one.
God, I don't know. My head almost exploded. Getz?
Yeah.
Why don't you take this one, man? Because I know I've never heard you like talk a lot about Van Halen, so I'm
right.
curious.
And so I did have some catching up on Van Halen to do. Obviously, I'm familiar,
Right.
just because I
I
lived.
could have made you a mad sweet mixtape, bro.
I lived in the Midwest, and particularly close to the Kremitskys growing up, and so
that was like Petersburg's band for
Van
a
Halen.
lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot of people that graduated from like 1990 to 1995. That was like
yeah. But at the same time, I felt like he wasn't able to really show his chops as much in Van Halen as he could have. And Jimmy Page, fucking Jimmy Page. I mean, to say the body of work, to say, you know, how integral not only was he to the band but to a decade. Jimmy Page is, you know, the 1970s rock. Eddie Van Halen is probably 1980s rock. But those two things not being equal, I'm going to take 1970s rock and I'm going to take Jimmy Page.
Well put. I got to go with Page as well. Man, and it was tough. Jesus, was it tough? Eddie Van Halen is certainly a crazier guitarist, and he can do some amazing things, and his tone is just wicked, and he spawns so many imitators, a lot of them that aren't very good. I mean, there are a lot of people that did bad impersonations of him in the late 80s. With Page, though, yeah, the versatility. I mean, he's got the versatility that maybe Eddie Van Halen doesn't have. Yeah, Page. I mean, I don't, I'm not like doing a cartwheel over it, because I love Van Halen so much, but I got to go with Jimmy Page here.
Yeah, and that was, we're gonna sweep it again. My gut was there is no Eddie Van Halen without Jimmy Page. You know what I mean? Jimmy Page was the first guitarist to have tons of articles and magazines about him and how to play his style,
right,
and how to get his tone, and he created all that, and Eddie Van Halen kind of lapped up the rewards of it a decade later.
Yeah. All right.
This is a good one. Neil Young and Dimebag Darrell.
All right. Neil Young versus Dimebag. Gosh.
Could you get any further apart stylistically?
Yeah. This still, I mean, Dimebag, rest in peace, but like, this just wasn't difficult for me. Like, I mean, Neil is, my master. I don't know if he's the master of feedback, but he's mine, certainly. It's just such a good electric guitarist and acoustic guitarist as well. He's just so constantly innovating. Neil, it was pretty easy for me. I mean, with all due respect to Dimebag, this wasn't hard.
To me, this one wasn't necessarily hard, but I thought about it for a while. I've never really considered Neil Young to be one of the better guitar players of all time. I've considered to be one of the greater singers of all time in a band, songwriters. I like his style. I think him and Jimmy Page have a lot more in common stylistically. And if you listen to live shows of Zeppelin, Page could get just as sloppy as Neil Young could on the soloing end of it. I saw Dimebag Darrell live, and a couple times, and he blew my mind. He melted my face off. So I had to go with Dime. Yeah.
All right.
Dimebag's influence on guitar influence, I think, is pretty significant. But it's Neil here. It's the crunch that is Neil, whether it be his electric stuff or his solo acoustic stuff, the real delicate stuff. Even as cliche as "Needle and the Damage Done" is, that's a
First song I ever learned how to play on guitar.
that's a guitar. That's great for just hearing, figuring out the guitar and what the guitar can do.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I gotta go Neil here.
That'll be a good Page versus Young.
All right. So it sets up an exciting Sweet 16 matchup. Okay, next up we've got Mick Ronson, David Bowie fame, versus Pete Townsend.
I had to go Townsend instantly.
Yeah, me too. Gosh, Bowie stuff's great, but for me that was always because of Bowie. And
Yeah,
that's not to undersell Mick.
No.
He's a really good guitarist. Maybe it would have sounded different if he had somebody else. I don't know, but yeah, it's just Pete here for me. It's just so important to me,
Pete in a landslide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How would Betsy would choose Pete. Yes.
Yes.
This would be a harder maybe matchup for her than us. But anyway.
Betsy thought it was admirable that Mick would that Mick would let Bowie go down on him on stage.
Right.
So he was taking one for the team there.
Right. All right.
Next, Warren Haynes
last one
versus-
here of the second round. We've got Warren Haynes, Government Mule, the Allman Brothers, whatever other 19 bands he plays in, versus Kim Thale of Soundgarden. For me, this one, I went Warren. I'm just not really sure. Kim's. I love those Soundgarden records, but I think it's more because of this, sort of the sum of the parts. So yeah, this one wasn't that challenging for me. Kim Thale's great, but I didn't hear from him for a long time. Didn't
return my calls either.
Right. Yeah, bastard. Anyway,
Dick.
yeah. So Warren.
Okay.
Warren for me.
So there's our Sweet 16.
Well, hold on. This is my 16-year-old self versus my 19-year-old self.
Right.
And which was more rational, which was more emotional. I'm going to go with the rational. I'm going to go with Warren here. Warren Haynes, I guess, in the sweep, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta go Warren. I like Soundgarden, but I just have a lot more of a connection to Warren.
Right. Oh yeah. I think all three of us can speak to that.
Yeah. There are no losers in this bracket.
No. All right. So what we got in our first matchup here? Sweet 16, folks. Ooh, gosh.
Brian May versus Dave Gilmour.
Two just titans of their era here. Gosh, I'm gonna go with Gilmour. As much as I respect both these guys so much. May was coming on strong, but he's just not going to overtake Gilmour for me, and just where I've placed those records that Gilmour plays on in my favorite records, and I think Gilmour's such a good live player too, a guy I definitely want to see. So Gilmour.
Yeah, Gilmour for me as well. This one was easy.
Yeah, it's weird. As much as we argue for May in the earlier rounds,
exactly.
This is pretty easy that this is Gilmour.
I think the Cinderella story ends here. Yeah, for him. So
sorry, Gonzaga.
All right. Next. Oh gosh. This is tough. Okay. This is Jerry versus Rich.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh. Okay.
Jerry Garcia, Rich Robinson.
Man.
Two of the guitarists of probably two of my favorite bands. If I had to pick.
Levi, start us off then, man, because this is. It's big for me too, but this is really big for you.
No, hold on. Let me start. This means
go
less
for it.
to me.
All right.
Yeah,
I don't have as much emotion devoted to this one.
Yeah.
I've voted for Jerry the previous two rounds, but I'm taking Rich in this round. I think it's more of the rock approach of Rich versus the more nuanced approach of Garcia. I got to take Rich.
All right. Yeah, well put.
Both guys are so integral to each band.
Yes.
Completely.
This is really tough. I'm gonna have to say my first love was the Dead, and I'm gonna have to stick with Jerry.
Mm-hmm. This is challenging for me as well. But I have to go with the person that pretty much plays on a lot of my favorite songs, my favorite albums ever. Whereas someone who I certainly romanticize in almost an exclusively live setting, you know, and I certainly respect what he did every night. But yeah, it's Rich for me.
Wow.
This is a big upset probably for a lot of people. A lot of,
Oh, yeah.
I would think if you were to poll people that like rock and roll and maybe even on the level that we do, you know, they probably wouldn't shake out like this, but that's not their tournament, damn it. All right.
There you go.
This isn't.
Okay. Frusciante versus Mark Knopfler.
Frusciante, I think it's a surprise that this guy's probably in the Sweet 16. Am I right?
Right.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, once he gets to this matchup, though, it's not that hard for me.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Knopfler all the way for me.
Yeah, it's Knopfler.
Yeah, easy one there.
Yeah. Folks, if you haven't heard it, check out Tracker as well. It's I really dig it. His new record. Okay, ooh, this is a tough one. Next up, Tommy Bolin versus Mike Campbell.
I'm going last on this one.
All right. So, Levi, how about you? I would be curious to see how you took this one. But I think I might know though.
This one's tough, man. I like a lot of both artists' music, and I respect their catalogs a lot. I'm gonna go. I think if we were gonna say there was an underdog in this one, I think I'm gonna go with the underdog. I'm gonna go with Tommy Bolin.
All right, Levi. I knew we were related. We're not alone. All right. It's gosh, you know, talk about a guy that's been a staple in a great band for a long time. We're talking about Mike Campbell, and he defines a lot of their sound. But gosh, you know, the world was really blessed to see Tommy Bolin, even if it was for a really short amount of time. And I think what he did within that time, to me, it's like probably like rock and roll's greatest potential, that some of the greatest potential that never really got to blossom as fully as it should. But still, that said, this is probably a little more influenced by kind of what I'm listening to, what I've been listening to over the last couple of years. I've got to go with Tommy Bolin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now that though you've already decided it, and this may get me sleeping on the couch again tonight, I'm going Bolin as well. I know
Nice.
I talk a lot about body of work and how important that is to a guitarist's influence, and admittedly, Bolin isn't a go-to guitarist when other guys are talking about their influences, because a lot of guys haven't heard of Bolin, or haven't realized that they've heard Bolin. But the raw emotion is, and the solo stuff is amazing. Check out Teaser, Private Eyes, absolutely, you gotta.
Great stuff.
Yeah, going Bolin, clean sweep.
Nice.
All right.
And that should say something. The fact that it's a clean sweep over Mike Campbell. If you aren't familiar enough with Bolin.
And I love Tom Petty, and like I said, I think Mike Campbell makes the Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he's integral. I was not to latch on to a different totally genre, but I was listening to some Buck Owens the other day, and his partner Don Rich was like basically the Mike Campbell of Buck Owens. And as soon as that guy passed away in a motorcycle accident in '74, Buck Owens' career tanked. And so I think Mike Campbell was that kind of a guy. I don't think Tom Petty would have gotten as far without him.
Yeah. All right.
This is points all around, guys. Yeah, but Bolin. All right.
Richards and Lifeson.
This is a tough one. Gosh, two guys who have, just such the combined years between these two, pretty high. Man, with this one though, I've got to go with the riff master, man. I mean, I don't think there's a person that's ever written better riffs. It's Keith for me. Yeah, it's tough here because you got one of the best lead guitarists versus, in my opinion, the best rhythm guitarist ever. So yeah, I go with Keith.
I gotta go with Keith too. And I love Rush, and I love I love their sound of their records.
So big, but yeah, it's three dudes.
I gotta go with Keith.
Agreed. It's a sweep.
All right. That easy for you,
yeah.
I guess.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Next up, Toy, Caldwell, and Randy Rhoads. When I looked at the whole bracket, I was like, I didn't know if I'd see these guys this far. But I'm glad they're here. And, God, they're both so good.
This is a tough one. This
is a tough one. And they're different. And two guys that, one in particular that weren't around that long either. Or did Tommy die before Toy? I can't remember.
Toy was like early 90s.
Okay, all right, okay. But gosh, he's really coming on strong, and he's gonna keep coming on strong. I got to go with Randy here. Just the greatest. I think of this whole tournament, best body of work in the shortest amount of time.
I fully agree with that. I gotta go with Caldwell though. This is a tough one, man.
All right,
because Randy Rhoads is one of my favorite metal guitarists, and there are so many great live versions of Marshall Tucker Band songs, like "Fly Like an Eagle" or "24 Hours at a Time," and they just highlight him so well. And I got to go with Caldwell.
All right. Well, Jonathan, are you going to take the highway?
If you asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have taken the highway. But I'm going with Sandy Koufax here. I'm going with the body of work in the shortest amount of time. I'm going Randy Rhoads.
Sounds like somebody's been listening to Blizzard of Oz lately.
Oh yeah, Diary of a Bad Man. Over the Mountain. Oh, there's so many great songs he was on.
Can't Kill Rock and Roll.
Oh
Jesus. Yeah, dude. I again. All right. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'll end it there. Okay. Oh gosh. Probably two of the titans right here. Two of the biggest names to face off. And probably that you'll see in the whole tournament. Jimmy Page versus Neil Young. Jesus.
I gotta go Page. I might right away Page.
Okay. All right. Okay. Maybe it's easier than I thought. I don't know. Jonathan?
You go, Gabe.
This is a tough one, but I love Zeppelin.
Let's think about this. This is a guitar bracket. All right.
That's what I'm thinking.
This
Gabe.
is a guitarist bracket.
This isn't a songwriter's bracket.
Yes, and if it is a guitarist bracket, and it is, I have to go with Jimmy Page here.
I agree. And
all right.
Neil Young is in my top 2 favorite artists.
Yes.
But I got to go Page.
Right. Yeah. All right. Page rolls on.
Townsend versus Warren.
It might be tougher than you think. It might be.
For me, this one's easy.
All right, and Levi?
You guys know who I'm going to pick. I love The Who, and I love a lot of Who songs, and I think Water is one of their best songs, and I jam it all the time. But Warren is one of the nicest musicians I've ever had the chance to meet, and was totally down to earth. And I've heard nothing but bad
you gave
stories
him a back
about
rub.
Townsend.
All right.
Hey, dude, I rubbed his feet, and he showed me how to play a rocking chair, man. A rocking horse.
We were at Bonnaroo, and I saw Levi just giving him a foot rub.
I was VIP during his.
That's what VIP entails.
Yes. Yeah, Bob Weir stumbled drunk past me off the stage. But I had to go Warren.
All right.
Mr. Nice Guy wins.
Jonathan?
I've like I said before, I've seen Warren play guitar live more than anybody and that I've ever seen play guitar. I've probably seen him play for 40, 50 hours of guitar live, and cumulative over the years. But I think Warren's parts in the Allman Brothers Band were very integral, especially to revive that band. But shit. But I think Pete's too much of a mastermind when it comes to all aspects of the music and the guitars. And Warren has had his moments over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And Dose and the tour for Dose and Life Before Insanity were the two of the most impressionable tours I've ever seen.
Yeah, everything up to Alan's.
Yeah.
This is great.
And then the songwriting on that is solid, but Pete's more of a composer when it comes to guitar.
Right.
And so I got to go Pete.
That's a really good way to put it, man. I can't say it any better than he's a composer. Not as easy as I thought it would be, but I'm going to take Pete as well. Even though Warren, this would have been a close score. So Levi, your boy goes home. All right,
nice guys finish last game.
Now this is I don't know if I can answer these.
Let's look at our final 8 here, folks. The Elite 8 is David Gilmour, Rich Robinson.
Hold on, let me scroll up there.
Yep.
Okay.
Mark Knopfler versus Tommy Bolin. Oh, Jesus, to hear those guys play. Keith Richards versus Randy Rhoads.
Yeah. And
Jimmy Page versus Pete Townsend.
Yeah, we got some guns, man.
Good God.
Big guns.
And we got to do these now?
We got to do them now. We got to do
this right now.
We got to do them right now.
Final 4, baby.
All right. Let's do it. We got to do it. We got to get to the final 4.
Who's going first on Gilmour Rich?
Not me.
I'll go.
All right.
I'm going to go Rich. Only because I think Rich is... I don't want to say he's more integral to the band, but I think he is. I think Rich was more integral to the band than Dave Gilmour.
I'll agree with that.
I think Roger Waters could have carried that band with another guitar player if he had to. He did. You know what I mean? He carried the band before.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm going Rich. This is a tough one, but I'm going Rich.
I know. I agree with you. I'm taking Rich as well. I wouldn't go as far as to say like to me, like, you need the Pink Floyd that I know and love. You need David Gilmour. But yeah, I this is kind of a sentimental choice, and I don't want sentimentality to drive the thing. But I look at he's the riff master. I mean, to me, like, he's he's the Keith that followed up Keith. You know, I mean, yeah. So this one, they're both great, but yeah, Rich it is.
I think if you took the band as a whole with what Gilmour did and the production of those Pink Floyd records, it's pretty phenomenal and unparalleled in many ways. But when it comes down to guitars, and if I need a song written in the next 12 minutes, I can't have David Gilmour fucking around in the corner. Noodling.
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
Rich, in that amount of time, can write me the riffs and the solos for both guitar parts.
That's right.
I'm going Rich.
All right. Well played, everybody.
Okay.
This
is a tough one.
And Rich goes to the final 4. So Rich is cutting down the net right now.
Yes.
Waving it over his head. All right.
Up next, Mark Knopfler and Tommy Bolin.
This is a tough one.
To me, at this point in the game, to me, this is not tough.
Okay.
I gotta go Knopfler.
Huh.
For some reason, if I put these two guys' bodies of work together, at the end of the day, I'm gonna end up with Knopfler. I don't know why, other than I just like his style, I think, a little bit better.
Stylistically, he's great.
Yeah. If I had to choose, one guy's style over the other, they're both phenomenal guitar players. Obviously, Mark Knopfler got to show off his talents longer.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, he's added somewhat of an unfair advantage.
Yeah,
here.
I gotta go Knopfler.
All right, Getz.
You can blame Randy Rhoads and his influence on me over the last couple weeks. But he came to me in a dream and he said, "You got to fly high with the Bolin."
Right.
Tommy Bolin should be in the Final Four.
It was, with the bullet, Bolin.
Well, Jonathan, dreams do come true. All right. And this one's tough. This is a really, really, really good matchup of two guys that just have such great styles. But the Randy Rhoads thing is creeping up on me too, because we're talking about guys that just did so much damage in such a short amount of time. Bolin, I mean, that dude could play in half a dozen different types of bands. I mean, he really could.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the Bolin for me.
Okay.
If this were a 7-game series, it would be like 4-3.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Keith Richards versus Randy Rhoads in an Elite 8 showdown.
I don't think anybody thought Randy Rhoads was getting this far.
I know, right? Oh, man.
Going up against one of the greatest the guy who invented the guitar rock riff, basically.
Yeah. And I'm not one to really to put forward superlatives that often. But I'll attach the superlative, the greatest, to Keith as far as rhythm guitarists go, and riff just masters. I got to go with Keith here. I mean, Rhoads, God, it was a good run, buddy, but you're dealing with Keith Richards here. Keith Richards.
This is a really tough one. I love both of these artists a lot, and I think in this case the lack of time and being able to show your talents kind of hurts Rhoads in this matchup. Mm-hmm. And so I'm gonna go with Richards.
Yeah, right. This is North Carolina versus UNLV.
Right.
You got the history versus the Flash, and even though Rhoads talked me into Bolin, he sacrificed himself at the same time.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm going Keith.
Noble effort, man. Rhoads. Gosh, man. Randy,
he said, "Bolin, go on without me."
When this is all said and done, even if he's not going to win, Randy Rhoads might be the unsung hero of this tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, next up, God, Jesus, we're just dealing with gods here. All right, that's just all there is to it.
This is ridiculous.
Yes, it is ridiculous. I've got to make a decision though. Gosh, we could stew over this all day, but I'm not going to. And
who is it?
Guitarist. We're thinking about the term guitarist. I'm going to go with Jimmy Page.
Okay, Jonathan.
That was so hard, but I have to.
Guitarist. Yes, I agree. But I'm interpreting guitarist differently, I suppose, Gabe.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Pete's work from the 70s, and it's not that he did a ton in the 80s and beyond, but he's kept at it on the road.
You got to advocate for rough boys here, guys. All right.
I'm advocating for those Schecter Telly bodies he played
open the door.
in the 80s. Let my love open the door. Empty glass. Hey, the stuff he did with Ronnie Lane, rough mix. I'm going Pete, man, and this is saying a lot.
This is North Carolina versus Duke right here.
Yeah, right.
You know,
This is tough, man. This is really tough. I think, this is one of those games where it went down to the end and there was fouls and free throws.
The crowd is on the edge of its seat.
Theremins thrown across the floor.
I will say, I will turn on Young Man Blues off Live at Leeds and crank it like at least once or every month or two just to get that in my system.
As everyone should.
I love that song. But I think I'm going to go with Jimmy Page.
All right. Wow. It's man, that's tough.
I was biting the towel like Jerry, UNLV.
Well, folks, that's the final four.
Rich Robinson and
Rich
Tommy
Robinson
Bolin
versus Tommy Bolin. We've got Keith Richards versus Jimmy Page.
Wow.
There you have it.
It's been fun, guys.
Yep.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the Final Four. I'm looking forward to what everybody has to say about these four guys.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves, online. Please join the conversation on Facebook. Also, you could follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RockNChew, or you can get all of our episodes as well as some extras, great videos, great links to music on the website.
All the losers went home with the take-home copy of Rock and Chew, so they can play that at home.
Right. Absolutely. So, guys, until we meet again in the Final Four. I know, right? It's just
I'm mad at both of you, but I can't remember why.
Yeah, right.
I forget why.
Bill Walton would say, what did he say that one time? That always played on Boars and Birdseeds. He's like, I don't know if I'll ever sleep again. We are better people for this. Just listen to it. They play it on there all the time. All right, then. But we are better people for this, damn it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Sometimes just life is full of hard decisions, guys.
There are going to be happy people and pissed off people.
Guys, this is growing up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. It's not easy.
You get what you get and you like it.
All right, then. Sayonara, everybody.
All right. Till next time.